Hello, I'm Hugh, and I'm going to be doing a run through of the newest version of Warsim, which is 0614. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to load my save. The screen is now this color permanently because it's just a better color, in my opinion, anyway. But you can change it freely. Let's load my favorite save. So I've got debug mode enabled. So the basic gist of this version is obviously the last one was debug mode. That was the update. Well, this update is the Kingdoms update, and that's what it's all about. And it changes independent kingdoms massively and drastically. So we'll go and check out the independent kingdoms I've got available to myself at the moment. The names are a bit incomplete. Like I do plan to have it a bit more, like the kingdom names to be a bit smoother. So we have Hairless Naga, Great City of Agwal, I think. Coast Dwarves, Brownwind Dominion of Fardhor. Titan Warlocks, Platinum Land of Gaius. Island Cappers, Kellard Old Land of Shar. Like some of those names don't roll off the tongue, but I'm gonna have it more able to be like that. So what you've noticed is basically the independent kingdoms now, instead of being just generic kingdoms of humans, they are all unique races, and these aren't fixed. There are in total there are 47 currently as the game stands. There are 47 different unique races. So, for example, dwarves, wizards, elves, warlocks, etc. But there are the total combinations. It's like Hairless Naga, coast dwarves, things like that. There are 7,332 different races, and the name it's not just a name. What you'll notice is if we've got anything special, Titan Warlocks. Those Titan Warlocks, I will guarantee you, have a smaller population than any other race, because they're huge. They're Titans, so obviously Titans tend to be fewer in quantity but greater in strength. So if we look at the Titans, they have a total units 12. They have 12 troops. That's it. And if we look at the what you'll notice now as well in the screen is it shows group race instead of the group phrase. So group race in this case is Titan Warlocks, and if we have a look, trade and diplomacy. So now we can so now we have all the diplomacy stuff is all put in its own screen called Trade and Diplomacy. We have then a screen for Kingdom Information, a screen for Grand Champion, and a screen for Unique Locations. So the Grand Champion screen is basically the same as before, but it's been separated because obviously it's not specifically diplomacy. And then Unique Locations is not actually currently in the game, but it will be in the future. You'll find independent kingdoms will have their own unique locations that are completely randomly generated and will have completely varying effects that will usually benefit the kingdom in question. So you might want to take that away from them or destroy it, or try and benefit from it yourself. So for example, villages and things like that, which will give them obviously bonus peasants, or maybe like for example with wizards or warlocks, they could have a magic tower which gives them a slightly higher battle score, things like that. So if we go to Kingdom Information, which is another new screen, you'll notice a new description for the race. Let's move my mouse out of the way. The Titan Warlock's Platinum Land of Gaius is made up of 12 troops and is led by Lord Estrock the Lute. Its people are all great Titans. Faction relation 18. So you've got troop tree and laws and legislation. So the kingdoms will have their own laws, although they currently don't. This will be things such as like slavery and their stances on that. But the troop tree does work, and it will show you the battle score of their troops. So although the battle score is disproportionate on this one because of a bug, pretty much. The Warlock Acolyte is the Warlock equivalent of a peasant. The Warlock is equivalent of a soldier, and the Grand Warlock is the equivalent of a knight. So each independent race has their own. If we go and look at Nagas, for example, the troop chief for Naga is Naga, Naga Warrior, and Naga Elite. So obviously, 40 battle score is lower than a peasant being 50 by default, whereas 110 is 10 battle score higher than a soldier. So it varies. But yeah, so each independent race has their own 3 troops, their own peasant tier troop, their own soldier tier troop, and their own knight tier troop. You can mod the game and add your own races. Each race has its own name file. So for example, the name Trienden and the name Agwal are both merman names, but Naga's pulled from the merman name list, which you can modify that yourself and add your own Naga names if you wish. It's completely moddable. So that moving forward, the plan is to basically have more more variation and more so that the races can stay exactly as they are now, but it's just so that they are more obviously different in the sense that laws and legislation will exist, and each kingdom will have their own completely different set of those, which will make the game so much more different because they'll react different ways to things. You have currently in the game there are kingdoms that are good and evil, and most are neutral, but there are some that are specifically good or bad, and that has no effect at the moment, but that will in future affect things like, for example, who they side with if they attack you, things like that. And how they view your actions. So if you become a totalitarian, you might have some, more evil kingdoms trying to ally with you, or not. They could just be that evil that they just want to kill everyone. There are at the moment kingdoms that are so uncivilized you can't actually speak to them. I'll see if we've got any here. Island Kappas. So your head diplomat Alvan the Headstrong tells you that diplomatic action with the Island Kappas, Kalad Old Land of Shah, what a mouthful, is not possible due to their savage lack of civility. So what this means is each race has, or each randomly generated race, in this case Island Kappas, has a civilization level, and their civilization level is low enough to the point that we can't speak to them. So the civilization levels are 1, which is completely savage, 2, which is feral, tribal, savage, 3 is really stupid but still civil enough to have diplomacy with. So things like goblins fit into that. 4 is still not human smart but civilized. 5 is human level. 6 is elven level and above, so things like wizards and things like that, smarter races. And then anything above that is very intelligent, or for example demigods. And although this has no real effect at the moment, the only effects it has is anything that it has a civilization level of 2 or lower cannot have any diplomacy done with them because they're just that thick. But in future higher civilization level things will have a lot more advantages for being obviously way more civilized and way more intelligent. But as it stands, yeah, so there's tons of new races in the game. The way independent territories works has changed. The way combat works has changed. So if we attack one of these, so we attack the Island Kappas, I'll send in 940 peasants and let's check it out. So they have, instead of having soldiers, knights, and peasants, it displays the troops as you'd expect. So we've got armored Kappas, which is their equivalent of soldiers, and their equivalent of a knight is a Kappa champion, probably. I don't know. Oh, Berserk Kappa. So obviously they vary. But yeah, so the game is moddable. I'm going to be adding a lot more race-related things in the next update, but this update has taken a long time and a lot of work to get this up and running. I did have something very similar a few weeks back, but the code wasn't up to scratch, so I've redone it. And so yeah, obviously independent kingdoms are far more variant. 7,332 very variant races, and although they're not specifically super different at the moment, there are some glaring differences between one race and another, which you will notice now that you play. And for example, you will have one game where perhaps every independent kingdom is very strong and perhaps too strong for you. We might have other times where they're all really weak, shitty kingdoms that you can take down easily, or you might find some that are just interesting in general. So it adds a bit more flavour to the game, but obviously it's going to keep coming, and I'm going to be working on more and more things to do with the independent kingdoms in the future. So as always, thank you for watching. And actually, before I go, I'll do a little run through of in the debug mode we can generate random races, so you can see what we've got to work with here. So we've got Minotaur warriors, or Minotaur warriors, not a misspell. I've got new races in the game: Minotaurs, Minotaurs, Centaurs, and Centaurs. So the ones with 2 A's, Centaurs and Minotaurs, are half horse, half elf, and half bull, half elf, instead of as opposed to being half bull, half man, half horse, half man. So they're kind of like elf Minotaurs and elf Centaurs. So yeah, we've got demonic imps, sun hobgoblins, bronze fawn, and what you'll notice is the demonic imps. Obviously, imps are small and weak. There are 5,000 of them, whereas the warrior minotaurs is only 100. I mean, granted, there is quite a land difference there as well, but even so, it's a very strong race, population-wise. And we can generate a few more. And wow, that is actually legitimately the most I've ever seen spectral implings. So there are 9,752 spectral implings, and they've got even less land than the race we just saw there. So that is incredible. So you'd get swarmed fighting them, but you'd probably, I mean, we can actually check them out. They'd probably be quite weak. Let's have a look. Spectral influence 11. Let's invade, and let's send 4,000 peasants. Yeah, fuck it, 4,000 peasants. We'll probably win by a massive margin. Let's have a look. So yeah, they've got a smaller battle score than us. Oh, way smaller battle score than us, because they're only sending a fourth of the troops out. So this should be a massacre. And yes, they got armored implings. So we lost 200 men, they lost 1,219 men, and we gained 1 land from them. So yeah. So long story short, independent kingdoms have been modified massively. They will be changed a lot in the future, and the game is now quite different if you interact with the independent kingdoms a lot. Otherwise, it's pretty similar. You'll notice there are new name folders, or there's a name folder in your data folder now, which contains individual text files for every single independent race, and they have their own names to pull from, and some pull from others, but it's all moddable. You can add your own races, you can add your own name sets, you can add anything you want. And I will probably be adding my own races again in the future when I come up with more. But at the moment, 7,332 is all I can give you. But that should definitely keep you busy. I mean, I'm seeing stuff all the time that I've never seen before, so it's definitely fresh. So yeah, without any more waffling on, thanks for watching. Enjoy the game. Saves are not going to be compatible as always, and it's going to be quite difficult actually to make a compatibility. But if there's any real trouble, I can try and sort it out for you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching. Enjoy the game, and I'll see you next time.